Hello, this is Jay McGregor. I appreciate you stopping by to review some more of my videos. Thank you. And we are on the topic of selecting data. Now we're going to go into some other ways of selecting in this particular training video. So I'm just going to simply draw a polyline, CAD, draw a polyline on the layer of, let's see, I want to put it on the layer of that purple line. See, I don't even have to know the layer name. I just highlight the layer name, pick the entity to extract its layer. Now what I'm actually going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to draw a polyline, create a closed polyline. Very good. Okay. Now the next way or discussion that we're going to have on selection control, let's go back to the Home tab, and again over to the right are our selection controls. So we are going to talk about something called Select by Polygon today. Select by Polygon is quite useful, and it also has some subtle things that some people don't know. So we're going to go over the Select by Polygon command. I actually think that you'll find that it is quite useful. So let's jump into this. Let's go to the command called Select by Polygon. Select by Polygon right off the bat wants you to pick a closed entity. Okay, fine. I'm going to pick that closed entity, that boundary. Okay. I am going to show you in just a little while the line that you pick for the boundary actually does not have to be closed. We'll discuss that. But I'm going to pick that polyline that I just drew as my boundary and then select by options. Let's pick this and discuss. There is one inside the boundary, one outside the boundary, and then crossing. Okay, all right. So let's just go with the first one, discuss that, inside the boundary. Well, what happens is when you use Select by Polygon, you select a boundary, a line, and you set it to inside boundary, then what happens is when you pick OK, it grabs all of the objects that are totally enclosed by that polygon. That you could call it like the selection by window. The entity has to be fully enclosed by the boundary to be selected. Okay. These lines are not selected because the whole entity, that piece of it's outside, piece of it's in, piece of it's outside, piece of it's in. So when you go select by inside, it has to be totally enclosed by the polygon that you picked. Next, it has to be visible. It only selects data that is graphically on or visible. If you've got data that's visibly off, it won't grab it. So Select by Polygon is definitely visible. Okay, all right. I will say deselect. I will say that there are some selection controls that will select even if it is not visible. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I turned off the lot lines. Look down at the lower right. The integer is 0, so that means nothing is selected. If I do go select by layer, and I particularly know the layered name, so I'm going to slide down and choose the layered name, prop lot lines 2D. You can see it got those 115 entities, even if they were not visibly owned. So again, there are some selection controls that work whether the data is visually off or visually on, and there are some selection controls that work only if the data is visually on. So Select by Polygon is definitely one of the ones that the data that you want to grab has to be visibly on to grab it, to select it. Oh, okay, great. All right. Let's go back to Select by Polygon. Fine. Again, I'm going to use the same line as the particular boundary I'm interested in. Great. I'm now going to go under the Select By. I'm going to go to the next option in the list, ladies and gentlemen, which is outside boundary. So if I go to outside boundary and I simply pick OK, it grabs all of the entities that are outside of the particular outside of the particular boundary that I picked. Okay. Again, these were negated. These weren't selected because a piece is in is a piece is out. All right. So all of the entities that were visibly on, that's the one thing, and that were totally outside of the boundary, poof, that selected that data. Okay, great. You've got to learn in TBC to unselect by picking in black space. Don't hit the escape. See, I'm going to go hit the escape twice. Escape, escape, escape. Nothing happened. Escape clears the selection inside of AutoCAD and Civil 3D, but inside of TBC, escape closes the command that you're in. If I had a command open, select by layer, and I hit the escape key, that closes the command. It does not clear the selection. To clear the selection, you simply pick in the black area on the screen to unhighlight or quote deselect. Okay, lovely. Again, we're discussing the selection command called Select by Polygon. We're now going to go to something that I use quite often. Under Select by Polygon, picking the same boundary, I am going to go to the quote third option. So it is called crossing the boundary. So I'm going to select crossing the boundary and simply pick OK. Okay. So any entity that actually crossed or touched the line was ghosted. Now look, these pieces of text and those 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those entities did not touch or cross the boundary. They were inside, but it only grabs what crosses and touches the line that you're using as the so-called boundary. Here's the next subtle thing that a lot of people don't know about Select by Polygon. If I go to CAD, draw another polyline, the polyline, ladies and gentlemen, that I use as the boundary for Select by Polygon does not have to be closed. So that is just an open-ended polyline. Oh, okay, all right. So I'm going to go to Home. I'm going to go back to the Select by Polygon command. Now, boys and girls, the Select by Polygon is one of the ones that has some subtle background works to it. This is one of them. I'm going to pick the polyline that is open. It's not closed. I just drew it in free space. And ladies and gentlemen, once I pick that as my boundary, I'm actually going to go back to the third selection called crossing boundary. The cool thing is when you say OK, any entity that touches or crosses that polygon actually was grabbed. So that's quite cool. I have had selection of things that needed to be in a linear progression or some type of, I need it to be right through over there, following this path along this area. Well, okay. So select by polygon, the first subtle thing, the boundary doesn't have to be closed. Okay. All right. So I wanted you to see that right there is a subtle thing. You just create a line. I don't care if it's a line string, any line, but polyline doesn't make a difference. Any line that you've got can be a boundary. If you select it, okay, fine, I'm going to deselect this. Well, now we're going to go back to Select by Polygon. I am going to pick that same open line, and I'm actually going to try something else. I'm going to go back to the very first one called Inside Boundary and pick OK. Ladies and gentlemen, Inside Boundary actually works even if the boundary is not open. Now, it didn't get any of these, they cross, okay? It didn't get that, all right? Because if I drew from there to there, that entity was not fully enclosed inside of that. So the next subtle thing about Select by Boundary is the boundary that you choose does not actually have to be closed back onto itself, and you can use these options outside. It automatically assumes a closure, okay? It does assume that you went to the properties and yes, you closed the line, that's its assumption, but the boundary line entity itself does not actually have to be closed. A lot of people feel, and I did too, when I first started, I thought the line would have to have been manually closed back onto itself for that to work as a quote boundary. And I was wrong. So I'll admit that. No problem. So ladies and gentlemen, the Select by Polygon command, quite handy. Now, we've been skipping over something that was visual up there. Let's clear the selection, pick in space, deselect. Let's go back to Select by Polygon. I want to point out this little itty bitty box right here. It says add to current selection. Well, here's what's happening with that. What does that do? So let's just say I had these 4, 5, 6, I had those already highlighted, already selected. Okay. I would like to grab stuff over here or here. I don't really make a difference. I would like to grab this stuff that's inside this boundary, but see, normally what would happen, I select that as the boundary. I say, okay. It deselects this and highlights this. Okay? So if you had data ghosted or grabbed or selected, when you go to Select by Polygon, if you don't watch your P's and Q's, it automatically unhighlights or unselects what was grabbed before you went into the command. Let's go back to this. Sorry, by crossing. Okay, so look, I have 6 things grabbed. You see the 6. Okay. Well, I'm now going to go back to the command Select by Polygon. Ladies and gentlemen, if I wanted to hold the selection for these 6 things and grab some more with this Select by Polygon, you need to turn this checkbox on if you want it all added together to be highlighted or to be selected at once. So I am going to turn the checkbox on. Please take what I grab and add it to whatever is currently highlighted or selected. Lovely. I'm going to go back to this boundary particularly picked here. I am actually going to use the inside option. So the objects have to be fully enclosed inside of that. And I'm now going to say, so remember, it says 6. I'm now going to say, okay. Well, now it says 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. So that's what I wanted you to know is if you normally just go Select by Polygon, you pick a boundary and you default to the inside. it automatically unhighlights or deselects whatever was ghosted as you went into the command. Okay, it thinks that you didn't mean to mess with that. So that's that little subtle thing. Select by Polygon. Do you want to take, there's three, I got three items or objects grabbed and ghosted before I ever, touch use the Select by Polygon. I am now going to pick the boundary, okay? As long as before you pick OK that you turn this checkbox on. So those three plus those 8, there's your 11. So that additional little checkbox down there is, again, if you're wanting to build a selection by different objects in different locations. So now I have 11 grabbed or selected. I could go back to Select by Polygon. I could select this as my boundary. And I am actually going to go to the option, the Select By called Crossing. Anything that touches or crosses that boundary. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to add that data to, see, I've already got 11 selected. I'd like to add the new selected objects to the 11 I've already got. Oh, there's 25. So that, ladies and gentlemen, very, very subtle option under the Select by Polygon. Do you want to add the data that you're grabbing to what you already have highlighted or selected? Or if you don't, it's going to unhighlight it automatically. And the last subtle thing about Select by Polygon, the boundary does not have to be actually closed. It will work within objects for the three options, whether it's inside, outside, or crossing. It will work for inside and outside because it assumes from the beginning to the end, it does temporarily close it and work that way. Okay. So the Select by Polygon command is a very cool thing. The subtleties of it, the boundary line that I use doesn't have to be closed. I can just draw it in free space. And then the last thing is this little additional checkbox to say, add to the current selection set. All right. So I use Select by Polygon quite often, again, for a variety of uses, but I did want to show the finesse. Boundary doesn't have to be closed. And also I can add the selection to what I already have currently selected. All right, boys and girls, I'm so pleased that you wanted to see my illustration and training of the Select by Polygon. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so very much. Hello, thanks very much for reviewing my training video. I do hope that it was helpful for you. My name is Jay McGregor, and I would like to tell you about my background and experience. If you've already heard this, please close the video at this point. Back in 1987, I began working with +3 Software, and that company is the one that started writing and developing the program called TerraModel. In 1988, when TerraModel started shipping, myself and Bill Denny became the training department for that particular software package. That progressed until Spectra Physics bought us, and Spectra Physics changed their name to Spectra Precision, and in 1996, Spectra Precision started developing and creating the first machine control system that they were doing was called Blade Pro 3D. That was being controlled by the geodometer total station, tracking the 360-degree prism, so you could get fine grading out of the Blade Pro 3D system. And for that first year, Myself and another gentleman in my department made all of the models for the machine control that was sold before they started letting the client start making their models for themselves. In 2011, Trimble created the Trimble Certified Trainer Program, and I became a certified trainer on Trimble Business Center back then. And since then, I have been training on the software and using it for 3D blade machine control and any software, hardware system out there. I can create 3D models for all of the Trimble and the TopCon systems. I have also been training since that time on real world projects to train the clients and the dealers' clients, whatever their software and project demands were. And I still continue to do that type of training, 3D data prep, and technical support even to today. I do hope that you enjoyed hearing about this. And if you have any more questions, I would definitely love to hear from you. My email is at the bottom. It's jaymcgregor@bellsouth.net. Love to hear you and hope to see you in the future. Have a great day. Thank you very much.